Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus, and I'm really excited about this webinar. I've got a great guest. Her name is Michael McCausland. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we get started and before I bring her in. Michael's an actress, producer, writer, director, acting coach, and founder of Real Actors Studio in Houston. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater from the University in California and has been working as an actor in Los Angeles, New York, and regionally in Louisiana and Texas. Michael most recently appeared on ABC's The Astronaut Wives Club. She's half Irish American, half Spanish, and Michael's proud of her multicultural background and of being bilingual in Spanish. Michael's very active in the Houston film community and currently serves as the first vice president of the Houston-Austin SAG-AFTRA local. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So let me get started by asking, some people have different philosophies about this. What are your thoughts about, do people really need to take acting classes? 'Cause, sometimes people will say, look, I'm a natural actor. I don't need to take any classes. I don't need to find schools. What are your thoughts about that?
It's kind of like, my philosophy is if you want a great body, even if you're thin or whatever, you have to go to a gym. Like, you have to train with a trainer. And so my philosophy is the same in acting. If you really want to be the best actor that you can be, you have to train. You have to be in a group with other actors, collaborators, people that share the same interests as you, so that you can work with each other. It's not enough, in my opinion, to just work on, with an actor that you meet on a set or for a commercial or a film or television show. I really feel that you need that sense of community because, in my opinion, you really learn more about acting by observing other actors being coached.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
And the other thing too, and I think, first of all, I really like what you have to say about that. The other thing too is sometimes people might feel like, well, I'm very natural. I'm able to grab the emotions that I need, which is great. But what happens if, for whatever reason, you're doing a theater piece and you show up on the stage and it's just not happening for you that day? For whatever reason, you're having a problem getting into character and getting to the right mental place to perform without any kind of technique, without any kind of training. It's going to make it really tough to make those kinds of adjustments. And so, once again, you always hear about the exception to the rule and somebody saying, I never took an acting class in my life, and, I think it would hurt me if I took an acting class, and they've had tremendous success. And there are also people who win lottery tickets as well, but they're very few and far between. So, I agree with you. To understand and learn techniques. Look, even if you are very natural and you do have that kind of ability, well, there are some very specific things that you need to learn, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, about the auditioning process, which is very different than just straight out acting.
And so it's completely different than when you show up on the set. It's a complete different monster. How you have to act when you're in front of the camera for your audition is going to be completely different than when you book the role and you're on set and you're just meeting your director for the first time 5 minutes before you show. You have to, they call action, which has happened to me before. So you've got to learn all those different techniques. You've got to learn about eyesight, and when you show up on a set, there's no time for that. There is absolutely zero time for that because it's so fast and every minute is money, and you have to be professional. You have to know what to expect. And I feel like in a class, when you're getting that sort of coaching and watching yourself on camera and knowing your eyesight and knowing where to look and exploring all this stuff in class, that you show up on the set prepared and ready to perform. So you need that playground to experiment and to try different things. And to me, that happens, you know, in an acting class. Sometimes on films, they do have the privilege of having like a rehearsal for the bigger budget films. I know some of the directors do that, and it's a wonderful tool for an actor to have that. But I don't think that's necessarily the case with television or, you know, independent films, short films.
And also, even for those films, that also means that you probably have a major role in the film. But if you have a small role, you're a day player, and you're coming into work for a day, they're not going to bring you in and rehearse for days. I mean, you walk in and, like you were saying, you do your thing. So let's say somebody has gotten to a point where either they're interested in getting started in the acting industry, or maybe they've been in the industry for a while, but they feel like they just need more to jump to the next level, or maybe things have just been really slow for them and they feel like their acting muscles have atrophied a little bit. What kinds of things should an actor be thinking about before searching for, you know, either a school or a class or a teacher?
I think an actor needs to be open to learning and open to the fact that they don't know everything. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and there's still things that I'm learning daily, and that's what keeps me humble, and that's what keeps me engaged in the industry, because I don't show up feeling like I know everything. Even when I teach, I don't know everything, and it's an exploration and it's collaboration with your students, and your students end up teaching you as an artist, and you grow more. So it's a give and take. It's like I said, it's a playground, and actors need to be open to the fact that they don't know anything. I mean, everything. Doris Roberts was in her 90s and, you know, recently passed away. And she was still studying at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, where I was fortunate when I lived in LA. I had school there, and I was just in LA 2 weeks ago, and they told me that right before she passed, that she was in the Saturday class and still learning and still doing her creativity at 95 after winning, you know, how many awards and having so much success with her career.
And just in case, oh, I'm sorry, I was just going to jump in case people aren't familiar with her. She was on Everyone Loves Raymond. She played Raymond's mom.
Yeah. So to me,
that's really interesting.
That's a good actor. To me, that is an actor that wants to keep learning. And, you know, you reach certain plateaus in your career. And, you know, that's when the ego kicks in. And, oh, well, I don't need this or I don't need that. And that might be true for some people. And but I'm of the school where, you know, there's always more to learn. And just being that student and having that student mentality of being open and wanting to, you know, collaborate and wanting to explore, to me, that makes the best actor.
So when somebody is thinking about a school, you know, should they be thinking about, well, what kind of techniques are being taught? Is it going to be, you know, Stanislavski? Is, you know, or some other type of, you know, method acting that they should be looking into? I mean, how do you even go about figuring out what kind of school or class is right for you?
I mean, there's a lot of books that actors can read, the Meisner technique, Stanislavski, to see if they kind of gravitate towards that. But to me, it's almost all, it's just portions, like portions of the pie that you can learn, and everything, you know, the Alexander technique. Every technique I think an actor should dabble in and at least try that hat on and see if that works for you, if that feels for you, you know, right for you. Some places that I've, you know, studied, acting coaches that I've studied with, they have their own technique. I sort of, you know, use Meisner and improv and you know, a little bit of everything, but I also have my own little technique, and it's basically, you know, experiences that I've experienced on set or as an actor, and I kind of life coaching and you know, having actors, you know, believe in themselves. So it's kind of like, I think every coach or every school that you train at is going to show you a new view of how you can look at the world as an actor and how you can approach your material. And I think it's up to you to do your research. And you know, it's like television. There's so many great shows on today on TV, but every one of us seems to be gravitated towards, you know, a certain show, and you kind of got to listen to your intuition as an actor and kind of feel out, well, what's right for me? This feels right for me, or this doesn't necessarily work for me. It sounds good, but you kind of have to intuitively feel what's right for you, because I think at the end of the day, you know what's best, what you like to do. And for stuff that challenges you, ask yourself, why is this challenging for me? Is this an area that maybe I should, look into, or at least commit for a month or two? Maybe I'm have a block and I'm not wanting to open up a certain area, and why is that?
I think you made a really good point, like when you were saying, grabbing a little bit, from a number of different types of methods. For me, and like this is just my own opinion, but anybody who tells you that this is the way that you need to learn how to act, this is the method, this is the only way to do it, something doesn't feel right to me about that. I just don't believe that there is only one way to do things. And it kind of reminds me when, and I don't really talk about this very much, but I was actually a classical guitar major in college, and that's what I studied. And there was a specific technique that I studied, that I used, but the actual wind-up was, it really doesn't matter what technique you use. It's, does the music say something to you? Does it really speak to people? And whether you use one style or another style or a combination of styles, it really doesn't make any difference as long as the product is great. So, I love what you're saying about try out a lot of different things. And maybe you'll find one technique that works best for you, and that's great, and follow that. Or, like most people, you kind of pick and choose a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and add your own special ingredient to whatever you're learning. And so I guess really the only way to know that is to experiment a little and open yourself up and check out lots of different places. So as far as trying to find places,
Yeah.
how would you recommend somebody go out and try to find, either a teacher in their area, a class, or a school?
I think the best way an actor can start their journey of how to find a class is asking your friends. I teach my students to be in a community. The Houston film community, the Houston theater community here we have so many resources for actors, and they can network on social media, mixers. You have to be around people that you want to be like. You have to be around people that have the same interests as you. You can't be an actor by yourself. I always tell my students that you can't act alone. You have to have friends, other actors. And so for me, I think the best place to start is with your peers. Ask them where they're studying, or where they have studied, or who do they recommend. Google search acting classes in your, what city you live in, or if there's none in the city, where you can go on a weekend, if you can travel out. There's a lot of Skype coaching. I Skype coach with a coach in LA every once in a while. So there's a plethora of coaches, of places that people can go to learn. You just have to begin the journey. And for me, I think the best place is through asking your friends and referrals and in those classes and sitting in on them and seeing how it feels to you. If it feels like a home, and if it doesn't, then that's not where you're supposed to be.
And I was just thinking, along with friends, but maybe for somebody who's just getting started, doesn't have acting friends, at this point, some of the other things that I was just thinking about as you were talking, maybe contacting a local theater and ask them if they can suggest any acting coaches. I'm sure, they would be able to give you some names. Maybe even contact a college, a university, community college, not necessarily to, start taking classes there, especially if you're just looking for a smaller, straight, just, acting class, but they might be able to refer you to people. And also, even if you're not a union member, you're not a member of SAG-AFTRA, now certainly they're not going to necessarily recommend an acting coach for you, because, a lot of the union offices probably wouldn't feel comfortable doing that, but they might be able to give you the names of some people in the area.
SAG-AFTRA is a great tool for people to use, whether they're union or pre-members, as we call our non-union members here in Texas. But also the Film Commission is a great place. You know, every city should have a local film commission. I mean, or states, in some areas, states. But film commissioners, they know who's doing stuff, and they can point you in the right direction as well. But just ask, put the question out there, even on Facebook, you know, ask people.
Yeah.
People will know, where's a great place to study? And someone will have a cousin who knows an aunt, an uncle who teaches or knows or has been in a class. So there's always a way. You just have to ask.
Sure. And so let's say you find a school. You go there. How do you even know if the school is good? You know, you haven't done any acting yet. What kind of things would you be looking for to get some kind of sense as to whether it's a good school or not?
I would say see the work that's being done. A lot of times there's scene work that actors are doing, you know, actors who've been there a while, you know, get a feel for if the actors are open to being coached by the acting coach. You know, ask them what they've been in, ask them how long they've been in the class, get their opinion of why they choose to be here or what they like about it or what they've learned. But again, you know, ask and show up. And if you're moved by the work that you're seeing in class or by the coaching that's happening, because it's not just, you know, doing a great scene, it's also being open to learning as a human what maybe blocks that you might have, why you're not in a certain place or a certain level in your career that you want to be. 9 out of 10 times I've discovered that it's a personal insecurity. It's a personal relationship that they haven't dealt with. It's always a personal thing, I feel, that has stopped an actor from being where they need to be. And for me, it's a lot. There's some psychology. I had one of my students on Wednesday nights like, did you study psychology? And I was like, I took a class because I had to, but I'm an actor, and I study humans, and I portray humans. And so I really, really so strongly believe that an actor has to look inside themselves first and kind of clean house, if you will, and maybe, you know, discover some things that they might have that they need to work on as a human, as a person, as, you know, being in a relationship, whether that's family, whether that's with a significant other. But 9 out of 10 times there's something that's blocking an actor, and once they can kind of discover that on their own, they can just fly as an actor. And I think the best coaches, I know that in my life, the best coaches, how I've moved, you know, to that next level in my career, have been people brutally honest sometimes, you know, acting teachers. I'm thinking of one very specific in New York that just told me that I was hiding behind my body and stuff. And once they allowed me to see that from an outsider's point of view, and sometimes it's brutally honest and it hurts, it was like I was just able to take off that hat and throw it away, and, well, that's not serving me anymore. And because of that, you know, the real person that's always been inside, the real actor, the actor that we knew when we were 4 and 5 and 6 and discovering what this acting world is, you know, a lot of times people have that as a kid, that person shines.
Well, you know, excuse me, I was just going to say, you know, it's interesting when you point that out. And something I was going to talk about acting coaches and personalities a little bit later, but we're on the topic right now, so I think this would be a good time to do it. You know, I think what's really essential is when you finally decide to sign up for a class, working with a teacher privately, whatever it is, you know, even if the teacher is a great teacher, if they are not teaching in a way that's getting through to you, then it's not going to work. And once again, I'm not going to mention names, but there was he's a very well-known acting coach based in LA, and he does workshops around the country. And I was studying his methods, and they were very interesting, and I got some things out of it. But I stopped going to his classes because I felt like he was trying to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist in ways that he wasn't capable of and he wasn't prepared for, and I found him to be very manipulative and doing things just to kind of get reactions from people, to make somebody cry. He would say something cruel, based on knowing something about the person who had opened up. And I just found like I felt so tense being in the room because I was always afraid, well, if I share something, it might get turned around and used against me at some point. And I just knew this just wasn't a good place. And look, and certainly there's a big difference between somebody being very honest with you and being critical. I mean, that from somebody, if your teacher is only going to say, oh, you're wonderful, you're great, hey, I love what you're doing, well, that doesn't do you any good. You want somebody who's going to really critique you and offer some very helpful information, whether it feels good or not. But it's how you do it. And so I guess my thought is, if you're with somebody who is just making your life, I don't want to just say making your life miserable, because look, somebody can give you some great information that might make your life miserable, but does things in a nasty way, in an unprofessional way, then honestly, I just don't think, no matter how good of a reputation that person might have, if it's getting in the way of you learning and growing, then it's not a good place for you.
Right. Well, it's like any relationship, whether it's, a spouse, a best friend. If you're feeling that something is not serving and that's not helping you to be at peace in your life, or to help you, just feel comfortable, then no, you shouldn't be in a place like that. And a lot of times acting is uncomfortable, and it should be, because you're going to work with hopefully a plethora of different actors with different personalities that treat you, what I mean, different ways. And at the end of the day, we cannot control how others are or how they treat us. We can only, control whether we allow that or whether we set a boundary, or, but again, as an actor, you have to be completely in touch with your intuition. And, obviously you were. I've had situations like that where, I felt that I outgrew the class, or that the class wasn't serving me, or, yeah, there are issues. People always bring their personal egos, to the table. And when there's confrontation there, it's, I don't know, it's heated, and drama, drama exists, on stage and off stage, and a lot of times in the classrooms. And it's, if you're feeling that this isn't for you, then you need to trust that and have the confidence to say, this isn't serving for me anymore, and I thank you for your time. And
yeah, and look, certainly having conflict is very healthy. Having conflict is important, and it's essential in order to grow, whether, like you were saying, whether it's in a personal relationship or with an acting teacher or within a class. But I guess what everything comes down to is you have to trust the person that you're with. And if you don't feel that trust, then nothing else will really work in that kind of situation.
Right, because you said yourself, you wanted to hide back and hide some things and not share because you felt you might be attacked, and that's a red flag. If you're not comfortable, if you don't trust, then you're not going to be able to be yourself. But again, you're going to have situations in the real world where there are going to be instances where you have to work with a director, or have to work with another actor that you might have those feelings with, and you have to push on through and be professional, and but yet listen to those intuitions and set those boundaries, and not let people take away, protect yourself.
You're very insightful. you really are, because those are just really, these are just life lessons as well. And you're right. Look, we all are going to have to work with somebody, whether it's in an acting job or in a business, with people you don't necessarily like, people you don't feel comfortable with, and that's just a fact of life. And like you were saying, it's how you let it affect you, and it's your call. Yeah. As to how you deal with it. And you can either turn this into a crazy situation, or you can take it into a very different direction and just be thankful you're not married to this person that you can't stand, and then kind of move on, and like you were saying, just be professional about it. But I'm kind of curious, so if somebody goes to visit a school or a class, are there any things that you would say that would immediately set off red flags for you and make you, start running from the situation?
I I don't like classes that want to be more than just your acting coach. I know there's a lot of places that want to train actors and then, represent them and stuff like that. I think there are enough great agencies and great acting schools that the two should not mix. That's my personal opinion on that.
Well,
I
and I can just to jump in for 1 second. I mean, that is one of the SAG-AFTRA rules that if you are a franchised agent, and I realize like most people are non-union, most people work with agents that aren't affiliated with the union, and that's not, I'm not saying anything negative about that, but the fact is, if it is a franchised agent, they are not allowed to have a class. And the reason that the union gives, and I think it's a legitimate one, is that they're concerned that if you want, the agent to represent you, you have to take their class. And they're saying that that's a conflict of interest.
It is.
And look, I understand there are lots of agents, especially in secondary markets, who, and I understand it, they are an agency and they want their talent to be really good. And if they happen to know people, they will bring them in for workshops and things like that to offer classes. But I guess the difference is, if they're offering you a class because they feel like it's really important for you and for them as well that you become great, that's one thing. But if it's a mandatory thing that we're not going to represent you unless you go through our classes, that's potentially, not necessarily, but that's potentially an issue. So, yeah, absolutely, I can see what you mean by that. Any other ideas about things that would make you say, nah, this is not a place I want to be?
If you feel that the school wants your money more than to teach you. Yeah. It's a business, and a lot of times, they want to fill the class or fill the space to make money, and it's easy to take a person's money, but you really need to. It's a service that you're providing, and what you're being taught. It's more than the money that you're getting as a business. It really is about wanting to change people's lives, change actors' lives, and help them, because it is, a sacrifice. At being a teacher, it's a lot of work. I'm an actor and I also coach, and I take on my students. They ask me questions and they contact me, and there's a lot of it's can be stressful at times, and it's you have to have a fine balance, because it is it's a giving. Being an acting coach or an acting teacher, you're giving of your time, you're giving of your talent, just as you do when you're an actor. You give of yourself. Basically, it's giving of yourself and sharing. It's not the money that you make. It's not even about the money. Yes, you pay a certain amount to be in a class, but if you feel like an acting teacher is wanting you in that room, in that space to get your money, and that you're not learning or you're not being treated in the right way, then I don't think that's necessarily a good place to be.
And I agree with that. And, the other thing, too, is if you go to a place and they're making promises to you, that would scare me tremendously, because the fact of the matter is there are no guarantees in this industry. Look, I've done over 1,200 jobs so far.
Wow.
So I am, I've been doing this a long time. So, and so look, I've been fortunate, but the fact is there is no guarantee that I am ever going to book another job for the rest of my life. Now, I'm certainly hoping that's not the case, and my family certainly is hoping that's not the case, but there are no guarantees. And so, and I also do private mentoring with people, and what I can promise them is that I'm going to give you the information that you need. Now, what you do with it, that's going to be up to you. And I make it very clear, I can't promise you work. I can't promise that you're going to get representation. Nobody can do that. So if there is a place that you're going to and you're, checking the place out and they are, building you up and telling you how great you are and you're going to be working in films and television and you're going to become, a billionaire and that's a place I would say, thank you very much. I appreciate all your kind words, and then find another place, because that's just
Right.
an impossible thing for somebody to promise or guarantee.
Well, I would hope that the actor going to these kind of classes already knows that about themselves and doesn't need the approval of the acting coach to tell them these things. That if you
Oh,
know you're meant to be this or that, you know it. You don't need anyone's approval. What you need from that acting coach is them to give an outsider's point of view, an outsider's eye of areas that you might need work on or things you might not know that you're doing. We start our classes off at Real Actor Studio a lot of the time where I just put my actors up in front of the whole class and they will talk about what's going on, if they've got a booking, what's going on in their personal lives, and I will notice like quirks, or they might have like a little nervous twitch, or move their hands when they talk, and I like to get them to see what they're doing. But yeah, when someone's talented and stuff, you kind of, it's a given. You're going to work and you're going to be successful. But an acting class shouldn't be a place where you need to hear, oh, you're going to be famous, you're going to be on the next this and that. I encourage my actors to believe that and find that for themselves and have that confidence to, yeah, they know that what's coming. They're here to train and learn.
I was just thinking with that exercise that you do, which I absolutely love. There's another side benefit to that just kind of came to me.
Yeah.
It also allows the class to feel more a part of being one family.
Amen. Yeah.
And people are able to share specific details about, yeah, I had this audition and I thought everything went well and I didn't even get a call back. I mean, nothing happened and then all of a sudden people are able to, have a better sense of each other and feel empathy and feel excited. And I mean, that is, another side benefit of being in a class is simply by making contacts, with
Yeah.
other people in the industry.
And just to hear
Yeah,
what's going on in their life and what works for one actor, and maybe have an idea, oh my God, this actor did this. I did that in my Wednesday night class. An actor had reached out to a producer on social media and like 12 times, posted something 12 times on their Instagram account, got an attention from a well-known producer who's doing a movie here in New Orleans, and asked to audition for a smaller role, was asked his email by the producer over social media, and got a email from the casting director of the show offering him a chance to audition for an even bigger part. So I share with my actors too what's going on in my career, what bold moves I'm moving, and yes, we have to teach each other what works. Like again, like I said earlier, you can't act just by yourself. You need to collaborate. We're all in this together. There are enough roles for all of us, and I teach that even with my little kids. My kids class, that we're a team, and one day Johnny might get the part, and then another day Sally might get the part, and it doesn't matter because there's enough roles and opportunities for all of us to win, and we are a family. And yeah, so it's kind of like the psychology, couple of 10, 15 minutes before class, and I think it's so vital for actors to share what's working in their career, what's not working. Maybe they have a terrible audition, we've all had those, but to share that so other people who are watching goes, oh yeah, wow.
and the other thing too is being a coach, and I get a chance to watch other people audition or maybe do monologues. I learn so much from watching other people, and I'm sure everybody in the class does as well. And you can see some things that really work, and you have a better understanding of why it works and how maybe if that's something that fits your style, you can incorporate it into your auditioning. And you can also see some things that don't work. And if you're isolating yourself and you're not working with other people, you'll never get that opportunity. So it's funny, I learn probably as much from watching other people who I teach as they learn from me, as the teacher. So it's a really I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love teaching, because I learn so much, and it's such a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, I tell my actors that all the time. You will learn more in this class by watching other actors get coached than you will by you being coached. Because sometimes when you're being coached, you're on the spot, you're not listening to everything that's coming, you'll maybe get something, but it's when you're just an observer watching and, oh, yes, they made that choice, or, oh, that worked, or, oh, they pulled from their personal life on that. Wow. That's just magical. And again, that's that playground, that's that classroom, that's that watching and learning as a team, that magic happens, and that you really learn as an actor. And it's so great to see peers. I've had peers that I studied with 20 years ago in LA that are just at different levels of their career, and it's so amazing to watch actors' journey as a friend and as a fellow classmate. And again, we're all collaborating, and success comes at all different levels, and you can never, this is one thing, if I can ingrain this in all of you guys who are watching, there's never a need to compare your journey to another actor's, because your journey is uniquely yours. And just to trust the process and trust that when it's meant to be for you, it will be. Whatever role that's meant for you, I believe it's already yours. It's just a matter of you taking the journey and having the confidence to go and get that role.
And I know I'm kind of jumping a little bit off topic, but you brought up something and it made me think of it. It was something that I think is just so crucial, and especially when you're sitting in the audition room and you're ready to go in. It's so easy to become paranoid and start comparing yourself to other people. And you might look at somebody sitting across from you and you start thinking, that guy's got the part. I mean, he looks exactly like what's written, in the sides. This is a perfect description. I've seen this guy in films. I've seen him on TV shows. It's like, why am I even here? And it's really easy to start that game of comparing yourself to other people. And what you said, I couldn't agree with more, is that everybody is unique. Everybody brings something to the table, and even if the part is written, for a guy with a beard and the guy sitting next to you has a beard and you don't have a beard, well, maybe they change their mind. Maybe they think, maybe the guy with the beard, it's just not going to work. Who knows what's going on in their mind? And it's true. If the job was meant for you, you're going to get it. If it's not meant for you, you're not going to get it. And that's why you can't beat yourself up after an audition and you don't book the job, because it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do after your audition. Now, you can control your audition, but after that, you have no control over any of that. And there are so many reasons why you book a job and don't book a job. So anyhow, I love what you said about, not comparing yourself, and it really, it's so true.
And even for the seasoned pros, like the last commercial I booked, I did exactly what you said. I was actually in my car. I'd gone to an audition in New Orleans. I drove to New Orleans, and I was in my car, and I got there early, and I was, it was callbacks, and there was like 7 women that they were auditioning, and I was judging every woman that walked in while I was sitting in my car watching, because I did not fit the spec of what they were looking for. And sometimes it's just, they just vaguely throw out, a number and a height and a description and whatever, and they don't know what they want until they see it. And I was the last one to audition, and I was so yeah, I did that. But once I got the opportunity, I was so excited about being given the opportunity and playing with the actor in the room and being just myself, that I ended up booking the role. And I
Wow.
wasn't what they were looking for. And what did it for me was I was playing in the room. I had a scarf on my head because I had to be like a painter lady, and I was like, is this too much? The casting director was like, yeah. So I put it across my my shoulders, and in the room the other actor was supposed to hurt his hand, and I got the scarf off and wrapped it around his hand, and he was like, and it was just a little moment, a little choice that I made. And then after the audition, they loved the way that we looked. The actor that they had already hired for the commercial was tall, and I'm naturally tall, and sometimes I'm afraid of that because it's like I'm taller than the actors. But in this case, it worked because I was just the right height, that he was so tall and I was tall too, that we looked like a couple. And it was about what we looked like together, height wise. And I guess my choices that I made, but I was just myself. And yeah, I could have freaked myself out, and I tried to do it, but at the end of the day, you have no control over what they're looking for. And they might have just liked the height that we were. And some of the other women, I think I heard them say that they were too short. And so it's not about they were better, I was better. It was just about what the clients were looking for. And you have to have that, just going in there and playing and being yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Now, I know, and somebody had sent in a question about the Better Business Bureau and whether that would be a good way to try to check out a school and see what kind of ratings they have. I've got some thoughts on that, but I just wanted to ask you first what your thoughts are about that.
That's a good question. I don't even know. I'm like, are we rated the better? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I've never used that tool. I'm sure if it's there, yeah, it's good.
Well, let me tell you what my thoughts are. And look, since I don't have a brick and mortar school, so I've never experienced that. I have no idea whether there are any ratings for me as well. But I do know some places that have been rated. And look, I'm not saying don't use it as, one way to look into a school, but I wouldn't put too much weight on it because, look, all it takes is, one or two students who, went to the school and they thought that they should be having tremendous success and they didn't, and so they've got to blame somebody, and they send in these horrible reports, or they do it online, about the school, and they're complaining and stuff. So all it takes in today's time, it's so easy to drag somebody's name or a company's name through the mud by doing things online. So, hey, look, if they are listed and you're seeing like, lists and lists and lists of these people, they rip you off. There's, you don't learn anything. Well, then maybe there's something there. But if it's a handful of places, if the school's been around for a long time, you're always going to have somebody, who's a little bit disgruntled about something. So, yeah, you can always check it out. But honestly, I think you going there in person would be a much, much better way finding out if the place is right for you. And like you were saying before, Michael, just talk to people there as well. But I'm also just kind of curious. Do you recommend, now, look, you have your own place. You are the instructor. But let's say if it's a school, or actually even for you, for that matter, do you think it would be helpful for someone to, or how would you feel if someone contacted you and said, look, I've heard great things about you. Could I possibly just spend a couple of minutes and talk with you, about what you do, what you offer?
And I do that, and a lot of times it's emails. People want to know what we cover, techniques that we learn, and I will take the time to do that, to email them back or to, say that they can call me if they have any more questions. Yeah, because they just kind of want to get a feel if it's right. And I think you have to have a certain sense of communication. Ask to come audit. I always encourage actors to ask to come audit. I don't know of any acting studio that doesn't allow that, and I would be a little cautious of those kind of schools because, yeah, we have auditors all the time, and people come in and might not fit for them, or auditors also, they might not be ready to jump into a class, or they might be scared of what is going on in the class because they're not ready personally to start that kind of training or stuff. So I always encourage people to come and check it out and see if it's
now. Are there any specific questions that you think would be really great ones to ask?
Well, if actors are looking for on-camera training, that would be definitely a good question to ask. Do you have a camera in class? Are the actors able to see their work after class? We have a YouTube page where I put some of the best work from students with their permission on our YouTube page. So if other actors are wanting to kind of see what the class is about, I'll send them to the YouTube page and say you can have a look at some of the exercises and scenes and monologues that we work on in class to see if it appeals to them. So I think that's a great thing is for actors to see if what's going on might be of interest to you. Yeah.
And what's interesting, and it's kind of like when you're trying to find, let's say, a headshot photographer. Look, there are lots of great shooters out there who will do a wonderful job. I always suggest that you try to talk with the photographer ahead of time for the simple reason, and it's just like with going to see an acting coach or talking to the acting coach. Sometimes it's not even so much what you say, but it's just the feel of the person. Is this someone that you can connect with? Is this someone that is freaking you out? Is this someone who just seems very odd and makes you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason, or they're doing things that are making you think this isn't someone I want to be in a private room with, or so yeah, I mean I agree. I mean I think it's really helpful to be able to talk to the instructor. Now do you think that the teacher has to be currently working in the industry
No,
in
I
order
don't
to be a
necessarily.
good
No,
teacher?
I mean there are some teachers that strictly just coach, and maybe they were casting directors before, or maybe they were attached to the industry somehow. They just never were actors, and they're just great coaches. But then again, there are actors like myself who also coach and are able to bring real life on set in the audition room experience. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a choice because, if you can train with one actor, acting coach who's never acted, and you can train with one actor who's like a current actor working. I think you get benefits from both. I know with me, with my students, sometimes I have to cancel class because I'm either working or I'm on vacation, and I hate that hurts me because I'm like, well, I'm a teacher, right? But I'm also an actor, and that is my top priority, is being fulfilling my career and teaching, and learning and being able to teach my students through what I'm learning as an actor. So it's just a preference of what I think every acting coach, whether they're working or not, has something to offer you, and it's what you feel you need. And so
Yeah, and it's just like, just kind of comparing it to baseball. Look, there are some incredible coaches who never played in the major leagues. So, just because somebody is not currently in the business, or maybe never worked as an actor, doesn't mean that they don't have the skills to teach other people how to be great actors.
Oh, it's just like directors. There are some great, amazing directors that have never acted, and then there are some amazing directors. Like look at Jodie Foster. She's directing now, and I love that. I am so happy about more women directing and stuff like that. So everybody has something to offer you, and yeah, you shouldn't judge one or the other.
So what happens when somebody comes into a class, and not necessarily yours, but this is just a hypothetical situation, and they take one class, they sit through a second class, and let's say it's a 6-week program, and they walk over to the instructor and say, this just is not working for me. I thought I was going to be learning other things. I'm just not happy in here. What would you recommend somebody do if they all of a sudden see, and I'm not talking about after the 5th week of a 6-week class, but let's say, after the first class or maybe the second class, somebody's just not happy. What would you recommend they do in that kind of situation?
I would recommend that if they've committed to the 6 weeks, I recommend that they take the 6 weeks classes. I think a lot of actors today, or just people in general, don't follow through, don't have that, if they say they're going to do something, to do it, because who knows, that 6th class might be the awakening that you're waiting for. But I don't know, there's something about follow through with actors today that concerns me, because people don't always necessarily follow their word or have integrity, and I think if you're going to commit to something, you need to commit and you need to show up and do it. But I see many actors that come to class and then they slack off and they don't return, and everybody has sort of free will and can do what I want. But I will tell you this, the actors that do show up and that are committed and in class every week, I see the progression in their career and in their personal lives, and it excites me. And the other actors in class see it as well. So work begets work. And I mean, in this situation, when you put in the work in class, it will come back to you in your career and, auditioning or how you approach the business. And, whatever you put in comes back to you. And so if you're not putting in the work and you're slacking off, then that's what's going to show up in your professional life. But those actors that are there and committed and do the work and are responsive to my emails or responsive to the work I give, like homework I give, and come back with the scenes memorized, or if I've asked them to reach out to a casting director or something like that, those are the actors that succeed. And it's,
Yeah, and it is funny, like sometimes when I'm taking workshops, uh, sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, well, I already know that. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that makes sense. I get, and then all of a sudden I might just hear one little nugget of information that I didn't know, or maybe it just kind of reconfirms something that I thought, is the way I should be doing something, and it will just transform what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I like your idea of, look, you check the place out. It's offering the kinds of things that you want for whatever reason, you might not be comfortable, but, follow through with it, because you never know when you might get that one little piece of information that will be incredibly valuable to you. And so, anyhow, I love that idea of doing that. Now,
and to look into it, like I have
again,
a lot of actors like, well, I'm sick today, or, well, something came up, and I'm like, if it's not a funeral or an audition, you should be in class. There's no excuse. When I studied at the Beverly Hills Playhouse in LA, it was like class 2 nights a week, from 6:30 to 10:30, and like, you better be in that class unless you were, at a funeral or on a set. And that sort of ethic, that sort of you know, I'm doing this, I'm going to train because you never know what you're going to miss, is, it's so vital. And I don't feel like there's enough of that today in all the actors that want to be, successful or want the careers that they always dream of. You have to have that follow through, because so much can happen, well, I got invited to a party, or, I'm doing this or that. But if you committed to something, you have to do it, because look what happens when you get a job. What we all dream of. If you've got a movie and you've got to be 3 months in Atlanta, you're committed to that. You're going to be there. You're going to show up on time. And so, yeah.
I know this is kind of like a very, very general kind of question, but somebody asked about any ideas just in general of how much a class could cost, how much I should be expecting to pay for a class.
Yeah.
So once again, I've got a couple of ideas, but I'd like to hear some of your thoughts first.
Some classes have like a set rate. I know at my studio we have like a 4-week block for 175 that you can use whenever, or a single class. We do like a drop-in rate that's a little more if you bought the block. But a couple $100, I would say. In every city it's more. I was paying more when I studied in LA, but it shouldn't be anything. I would say like whatever. It shouldn't be something like astronomical, where you're like, oh my God, I have to take a second mortgage on my house to take these classes. Although there are places and coaches that do charge a lot, and
Yeah, I mean,
rightfully so, because their time, they set a price on their time. So I guess it's whatever can fit into your budget comfortably, but that it's a bit of a sacrifice, and you might not have to go to Starbucks every day.
look, I know there are also, I can only speak about New York because I'm not sure what it's like in LA, but there are like 2-year conservatories, and you can actually get, there are 4-year conservatories where you get a degree, and I mean, you're talking about, you're paying like you would for, a college. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like going to, a state college today it's crazy money, no matter what you're studying. But I guess the important thing is just to understand that just because something is very expensive doesn't necessarily make it good or great. And because something is more reasonable doesn't mean that it's bad. And so, and I like your idea of, look, you don't want to start going into debt
Yeah.
to take acting classes because look, this world is stressful enough.
Yeah.
And then to start adding, taking out a home equity line or, asking friends for money for this, it's kind of like, moving to a major market. You want to make sure you've got enough money saved up so that you can spend your time studying, taking classes, putting together the right photos and not having to, work 35 hours a day in order to pay for, for your living expenses there. So, yeah, I like the idea of, maybe just kind of checking around and seeing what is a typical cost for a class in that particular area. Maybe that would
And
give you a better idea.
right. And you should never let money stop you from something because there's a psychology attached with money. Oh, I can't afford that. Really? Well, that's what you're putting out to the universe. You can't afford that. Or it's just funny, the psychology of money and how it limits us. And as an actor, nothing should limit you because there's like a magic, you know what I mean? Whatever you feel you can afford or whatever you set those limits for yourself. Yes, we budget, we all do, but like if you want to go on a trip or to Europe or whatever, you'll save that money or that money will appear somehow magically in your account. You'll book a job or get a reuse fee from a print job or whatever, but money should never stop you from attaining what you need to attain to further your career.
Yeah.
And I think when you put so much significance on money, I mean, I'm religious. I tithe. I believe in God, and I know that money is not the issue. It's your trust, and don't ever let money stop you from film, shooting with that great photographer that you've always dreamed of shooting. There's always a way. There's just don't set those limits for yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you've already answered this before, but another question that came in to me was, is it really important to study with somebody who has contacts in the industry that might be helpful to you? So, if a teacher has connections with casting directors or agents, should that be any kind of criteria as to whether you want to study with that person or not?
I think every person that's teaching or is going to have some industry contact, whether it's their friends or fellow filmmakers
Or
um,
previous students?
or previous students that you're always going to have. You're in the industry. We're supposed to know each other. I don't think that should be like a requirement that a teacher knows such or I know some studios they offer like showcases for their actors and that's great and stuff, but that shouldn't be the reason that you train with someone in the hopes of getting to know, if you want to get to know Steven Spielberg, get to know Steven Spielberg without having to take a class or something like that. There's always a way to get to connect with someone. But I don't think that's a huge requirement. I think it's just natural. We had a wonderful veteran actor that now lives here in Houston, Jim McCrell, come to our class, and he was in, Annie Hall and Gremlins, and
Wow.
came and just spoke to our class. And I'm like, you guys, you're hearing what this is? He was talking about how Woody Allen wrote his lines for, Annie Hall, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I got to meet him at a premiere and just asked him to come to class, and he did, and he just shared so much information to our students and so much wisdom, and I even learned. And it was just, I think wherever you study, that you're going to have opportunities where you get to meet, other people in the industry that you wouldn't necessarily meet. But I don't think it's a requirement. I think it's an added bonus, or studying in a class where, you're a fellow actor's on a TV show or has been in tons of commercials. We're all actors. A lot of us, some of us have more credits than others, but at the end of the day, we're all actors and we're all team players and we all have something to share and to give, and it's collaboration. And so, no, you're gonna meet the right people in your journey if you trust the process and if you take the steps in your career. And I firmly encourage every actor, to take that journey and to be in a class and to, move around. Don't just stay in one class unless you feel like that's your home for life. Okay, but there's so many people that can teach you. Every person that you meet will teach you, whether that's an acting coach or a fellow actor or a person at the grocery store. Every person will teach you something if you're open to receive that.
And as far as taking the class, and certainly I would never suggest that somebody do it for this reason, but do you feel that putting on your resume a listing of a class that you took with a well-respected teacher, you think that's something that would be helpful to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Casting directors or producers or writers, whenever you're auditioning, when they turn over that resume, when they do that magic flip,
magic flip.
Oh, they want to see, what you've been up to, or just when you go into a meeting, and which auditions are meetings, by the way, for those of you that know, when you meet a new group of people, well, tell us about yourself. They don't want to know, well, my boyfriend left me and I'm late on my house payment. You know what I mean? They don't want to know that. They want to know, well, I'm an actor. I studied here, and I've done some theater. They want to know your work, where you've trained. So they kind of get an idea. Oh, they trained with such and such, or oh, this is telling me that this actor is serious about his career, and that he's investing the time, and he's already invested that time. So it's like, yeah, you want to see that you're a trained actor. I would, if I'm casting something or a project, I want to know if this actor is coachable. Maybe they might not have a lot of credit, yet on their resume, but if they're in a class, I know that they're going to be coachable. They're going to be directable, and yeah, I want to work.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and especially for someone who does not have that many credits, at least if the casting director or the director can see, okay, the person's just getting started, but, oh, this person studied with Michael. Yeah, she's great. That's going to say a lot about the actor. And I'm being very serious about that. No, it's going to say a lot about the actor, and it will allow someone who might not have the credits still get the opportunity to audition because they trust the teacher. They trust the class. And so, I mean, that's really probably one of the greatest things you can have on a resume if you don't have any kind of credits that are going, jump out at somebody, is to show that you studied with great people. And that can really make the difference between getting an opportunity to come in and read with somebody and not getting that opportunity.
It's about reputation. Your reputation as an actor precedes you. I mean, who you're associated with, who you hang around with, classes that you attend. If you went to this college or if you studied with this, acting coach, there's a sort of reputation built in with that. It's like being, a union actor versus a non-union actor. That there's professionalism attached with an actor that has SAG-AFTRA on their resume as opposed to one who hasn't yet, achieved that. And hopefully they will want to achieve that. But connecting with people who have a respectable image and reputation is vital in this industry, because reputation will book you. You'll get jobs based on that you went to this college, that you studied with this teacher, that you're putting in the work. It shows me that I'm not a lazy actor, that I'm not a, I just want to get famous and I just want to make money person. It's that you're putting in the work. Baseball players, they train, some of them since they were kids, and t-ball and all that. And why should that be any less difference for an actor? I love actors that are doing plays at school. That's how I started, in junior high and going to competitions. And it's a process, and no one's expecting you to, we all start somewhere and we gain credits, and, our journey just continues and stuff, and we get more confidence. But your reputation as an actor is vital, because, casting directors won't bring you in if you're unreliable or flakeable. Directors don't want to work with people who don't have a good reputation. And this is even actors that have successful careers. If you're not reliable, if you're not going to show up on time, if you have a bad image on social media, you're hurting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. It shows, especially when you're showing on your resume that you've taken some great classes. It shows you're dedicated. It shows you're working hard. It shows you're taking this work seriously. And they might, be thinking, okay, the person hasn't done that much. Let's give them a shot. I like the training this person has. They physically look right for the part. Sure, let's bring them in and see what they can do. And that's what you're looking for, is getting that opportunity to come in and meet with the casting director and hopefully with the director as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mike, I just want to say this was really incredible, and I love what you've done with your career. Love what you do with your classes. If I lived closer to the Houston area, I'd be one of your students coming in and sitting in and trying to learn from you, because, I mean, it seems like not only do you have the ability to teach people about acting skills, but you also have this amazing ability to teach people life skills as well. And as an actor, it's really important to have a really grounded kind of life, because being self-employed, there are lots of uncertainties, and there are a lot of directions that people can go in. There are lots of highs and lots of lows, and it seems like you have this ability to really just center people and get them to see things in a very different light. And that's, once again, that's something else that not all acting coaches are able to offer. Some people are just straight technique, which, that's wonderful, but to me, you're like one of those special ones that's able to really, really comfort, push, and allow people to see things in a very different way than most people and most teachers are able to offer. So anyhow, thank you for doing so much for people.
Thank you, Aaron. That is so sweet, and it's true. I feel that I don't just teach acting. I'm teaching people how to be the leading lady or the leading man in their personal lives, and be bold. And when you know as a person that you can do anything, and you really own it and know that you have power, you really have, there is magic in the world if you believe, then you can have anything, any job, any of your wildest dreams can come true. And so I'm grateful that this journey has taken me where it has, because it's amazing. I'm able to give back what I've learned, and my students teach me as well, and it's just this great collaboration that we're doing, and we're all succeeding, and we're all doing this together. And so thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk and to share.
Oh, absolutely. And I just want to give out two websites. I mean, they'll see one of them here, but if you want to learn more about Michael's studio and her acting classes, if you go to realactorstudio.com, that's REEL, actorstudio.com. And if you want to see more of Michael's work, let me spell this out for you. So it's Michael, M-Y-K-L-E, McCoslin, MCCOSLIN.com. And you can check out her stuff. She's done some incredible things. And hey, congratulations on the TV spot. That's wonderful too.
Thank you. Here's to more to come for all of us.
That'd be great. Well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate you spending the time.
Thank you, Aaron. My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thanks. Well, everybody, that was wonderful. It's really so nice to be able to talk with, to be able to meet just some really kind and special people in the industry, and Michael certainly is in that category. I'm really excited about next month's workshop as well. I'll be sending you more details about it. And as always, if you ever have any questions at all, always feel free to reach out to me. And you can catch me at facebook.com/howtomodel. You can also go to my website, howtoactandmodel.org. And I also offer, I spend 5 days each month where I do private mentoring online. And you can read more about my private mentoring sessions that are really, really helpful to people. Just go to howtoactandmodel.org/coaching. I'm Aaron Marcus, and can't wait to talk with you again soon.